Are you guys ready? Happy 2025, folks. I'm Cahill with Shelf-Esteem, and this is the official kickoff video for our year of our read-along. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Cahill with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the newly released psychological horror film, Dead Whisper. So this is the video I've been super excited to put on this channel since the last couple of months since we decided to do some read-alongs for the channel. I put up a poll in September or October of 2024 talking about a few read-alongs I wanted to try on the channel and see which one you all preferred. So you wonderful people picked Malazan, Book of the Fallen as our official channel read-along. A lot of you had mentioned after that poll went up and the results came up, I really would have loved to read some of the other three. So I figured, you know what? Instead of just doing one read-along, let's do one, official channel read-along, and we'll do 3 soft read-alongs so that everyone's happy and everyone gets to read the books that they want to read. And I figure I'll sacrifice sleep. Sleep is for 2026. So I might as well read some good books with people and have some great discussion. So this is kind of a breakdown video talking about each of the series that we'll be reading. Kind of a little pitch I'm making to you all about why I had originally chosen these for the list, why I think you might enjoy them. And you can hop on the Discord channel down below to have some discussion section by section in the book. With a wonderful 45-strong community right now that are all excited for this read-along. Or you can also have a more in-depth chapter-by-chapter discussion on the FABLE app. I've created some clubs below, so you can check those out as well. But really excited to have you all on board and hope more of you will join, because the more the merrier. You can kind of lurk in the comments and read alongside, or you can be an active participant. Whatever you want to do. I just want this to be a really nice community where people can read books together. Because some of these series are, I'm not going to lie, some of them are more easily accessible than others. And some have reputations for being a bit more difficult, especially the first couple books. So I want to make sure that there's a community that can support each other, because it's always better to read these types of more intimidating fantasy series and things like that that are on our lists, on our ever-growing TBR list with other friends and encouraging support systems. So anyways, that's my long diatribe. But before I jump in, if you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. And now on to the books. So like I mentioned, the first channel read-along, the official channel read-along, the one that's going to have the most content and kind of try to get some more guest people on the discussions and everything like that, more content built around it, is Malazan, Book of the Fallen. So this series is by Steven Erikson and Ian Esselmont. They both came up with the story. Steven Erikson wrote the 10 very big books in the series. They wrote it, started I think in 2000 or 1999 it might have been, and then it ended around 2013. So there's since been, some spin-off series, some prequel series, that kind of a thing. And it's still going right now. But what we wanted to focus on is the 10 main books in Malazan, Book of the Fallen. So what is this series about? So without spoiling anything, because I think the greatness of series like this that, are big and sprawling, have a lot of different characters and world building, is to kind of let the mystery unfold, I guess you could say, as the pages turn. So the best thing I can say about it right now is imagine an empire, right? The Malazan Empire, and chronicling its kind of arc over, many, many years, many different generations, and kind of more from a historical perspective. If a historian was looking at this old ancient empire and kind of how it rose and fell and everything like that. So the 10 books kind of chronicle that in a lot of different ways. And then there's, of course, prequel series and everything like that. So it's a military fantasy. It's a bit more gritty and dark, I would say. It's definitely, at least from, the little bits that I've read, it's definitely darker than, say, like a John Gwynn's Faithful and the Fallen. But there is also a side of compassion and hope to it. And that kind of becomes evident as the series progresses. Now, the reason why this series is considered confusing by some is Steven Erikson doesn't hold your hand at all. He kind of drops you in the world, and you just kind of get to know the characters through situations and what they're doing, and you kind of get to see the magic system and everything unfold over the book. So the first book that we're going to be reading is Gardens of the Moon, the shortest Malazan book. So great way to get into it. Now, this book is considered oftentimes a little bit harder to get into because people have to kind of get into Steven Erikson's prose and style of dropping you in this world. But, in the second book, Dead House Gates, which we're going to start in February, and I actually have a calendar with all the kind of scheduling for the next year and 3 months and some change that I'm also linking down below. So you can check that out if you'd like to. But basically, the second book takes place with an entirely new set of characters on a different continent. The third book goes back to the first set of characters. So there's a lot of trying to figure your way out through this world. There's like 16 different races of, beings on this world. There's different continents and hundreds of thousands of years of history. So a lot to kind of take in, but it's one of those trust the process type of series, because after the first few books, there starts to be this convergence where everything that you've been reading kind of slowly starts to come together. And I kind of get the idea of that is like Steven Erikson probably felt, if I try to introduce too much all at once, it's going to be way too grandiose, right? It's already grandiose enough. So best way is like, let's analyze this corner of the world. Let's analyze this corner. And then suddenly you start kind of putting the pieces together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the back of Gardens of the Moon so you can see if this is for you. The Malazan Empire simmers with discontent, bled dry by interminable warfare, bitter infighting, and bloody confrontations. Even the imperial legions, long inured to the bloodshed, yearn for some respite. Yet Emperor Lazine's rule remains absolute, enforced by her dread claw assassins. For Sergeant Whiskey Jack and his squad of bridge burners, and for Tattersail, surviving cadre mage of the Second Legion, the aftermath of the Siege of Pale should have been the time to mourn the many dead. But Darujistan, last of the free cities of Genabakis, yet holds out. It is to this ancient citadel that Lazine turns her predatory gaze, but it would appear that the Empire is not alone in this great game. Sinister, shadow-bound forces are gathering as the gods themselves prepare to play their hand. Epic story, epic start, right? There's gods, there's mages, there's, lieutenants, there's this kind of Malazan army, there's Genabakis, this different area. So a lot to explore there. I, for one, am really excited to read this alongside you all, because this is the kind of book that requires, I think, a little bit more of an in-depth study, right? And in our Discord channel, a few of our members kindly directed me to some resources. So I post those in pinned comments as well, where you can kind of check out chapter by chapter analysis if you want a deeper dive. And I'm going to be doing some video content related to each book. But then beyond that, since it's our official channel, Read Along, I was planning on doing, maybe, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do this. I would actually love your opinion as well. So if you have thoughts about this, let me know in the comments, because I want to make this Read Along about all of us, right? I'm just the steward of the channel. I'm just helping to kind of shepherd this along, but it's really what we all make of it collectively, right? So what I was thinking of doing was I'll do some video content that's related to those books, each book, right? And at the end of each kind of book, at the end of when the period for this book ends, I would maybe do like a live stream discussion, because I thought it could be kind of cool. Like, one, if it's a solo live stream discussion, I can interact with you all who read the book in real time, and we can kind of chat about it, both in the comments, both on, you can ask me questions, and I can kind of pose questions to you all, and we can actually have a dialogue. I thought that could be a really cool way to do that. And I haven't seen very many booktubers do a live stream at the end of each book, so thought that could be cool. It could also give me a chance to get some guest stars lined up for that. So I'm kind of playing around with that at the moment, but excited for all of this. So that is the first series we'll be tackling. That's the one that's going to get the most attention on the channel, just because it is the official channel, Read Along. But the others will be following closely behind, because I'm going to kind of make them unofficially official. I want to make sure that I also have a lot of content and things like that related to those. So let's talk a little bit about the second series. So the second series is by an author named Janny Wurts. So you've probably heard about her a lot on BookTube. She's become an active staple on BookTube because so many different channels like Philip Chase, Joanna Reads, they're doing a read along right now. I think Talking Story and I want to say Nerd Level Rising and a bunch of other channels are kind of doing a read along of this series in 2025 as well. And I kind of wanted to, get a community going to read some of these books as well, because Janny is one of the kindest people I've ever met on BookTube. She and I often message each other, and, she was kindly sent me a bunch of her books from her Wars of Light and Shadow series. That was the impetus that kind of moved it higher on my list and made me go, I really want to read this in January. So let's kind of look at the first book that we're going to read. It's going to start in January as well. Now, this one, because it is also dense, and I want to make sure there's a bunch of people who are reading Malazan and Wars of Light and Shadow, so I want to make sure that there is not too much competition between the two for your brain space, and then also that you all don't burn out, because that would be the worst thing in the world. I want to make this fun. We read because we get to, not because we have to, right? So the first book we're going to be reading, we're going to read these every other month. So this one will be in January, the next one will be in March, and so on and so forth. So this one is called Curse of the Mistwraith. And I gotta say, like, I don't know if you could see this well enough. There we go. I think that focuses the camera a little bit better. But the Curse of the Mistwraith is this beautiful illustration was actually done by Janny Wurts. She illustrates all of her covers. I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous illustrations. And I've read her writing, and I really say that her illustrations and her writing are right there on par with each other. She is a genius, a woman of many talents. So what is this series about? Now, again, I'm trying to keep this high level because I don't want to spoil anything. Instead of reading the flap of the inside flap of this book, I'm going to actually read the prologue. The prologue's only 3 paragraphs long. It's not like one of those giant prologues like in A Wheel of Time or something. So you kind of have a good sense of what the series is about actually from this prologue. So, the Wars of Light and Shadow were fought during the Third Age of Ithera, the most troubled and strife-filled era recorded in all of history. At that time, Erikson, Master of Shadows, battled the Lord of Light through 5 centuries of bloody and bitter conflict. If the canons of the religion founded during that period are reliable, the Lord of Light was the divinity incarnate, and the Master of Shadow a servant of evil, spinner of dark powers. Temple archives attest with grandiloquent force to be the sole arbiters of truth. Yet contrary evidence supports a claim that the Master was unjustly aligned with evil. Fragments of manuscript survive which expose the entire religion of light as fraud and award Erikson the attributes of saint and mystic instead. Because the factual account lay hopelessly entangled between legend and theology, sages in the 7th Age meditated upon the ancient past and recalled through visions the events as they happened. Contrary to all expectation, the conflict did not begin on the council stair of Itara, or even in the soil of Ithera itself. Instead, the vision started upon the wide oceans of the splinter world, Dasken Elur. This is the chronicle the sagas recovered. Let each who reads determine the good and evil for himself. So really, really interesting kind of prologue there. It got me thinking because, the whole idea of the good versus evil trope that you see so often in fantasy, and I feel like this harkens back to kind of more of that classical fantasy, right? Any conversation I've had with Janny Wurts, and even this prologue kind of gives that little nugget there that this is going to be a little different, You think you know what good and evil is, but then as the books progress, as you start to kind of, get to learn more about the characters, again, it's a slow unfolding over time. You start to realize that not everything is as it seems. Not everything is as reliable and as strongly held belief as you could, previously imagine it to be. So I'm really excited about this. And as you heard from this prologue, she has a gift with the pen. I mean, she has a gift with words. To me, I had read The Gallant, the prequel novella in December, alongside a few other people on the Discord, which, again, if you want to join in on more of these read-alongs, just join in the Discord there. But, I was just taken aback by how beautiful her writing is. And her character work is incredible. It's not beautiful writing for, in a self-congratulatory way for beauty's sake only. It's also always to serve the story. So she's very direct in her prose, and yet it's also very beautiful. So love her book, The Gallant, and I also loved To Ride Hell's Chasm. So I'm excited to start Wars of Light and Shadow with a bunch of you. Hope many more of you will join. And Janny has mentioned she would be very enthusiastic to join on a discussion about this series at some point in our journey. So I will keep you all posted once I lock down dates for that. But, she's just a wonderful, gracious person who's incredibly talented writer, and I'm excited to explore this all with you. So that is the second series. Now, the third series is by one of my newer favorite authors, but he's been writing since, I think, the early 80s. Now, his name often doesn't get put in the same basket, I guess, as a Stephen King, for example. But he should be right up there because Robert McCammon has written 2 books that I've read that are on my top 10 books of all time in any genre. He wrote Boy's Life, which is kind of a coming-of-age story with light horror elements. He wrote Swan Song, which is a post-apocalyptic kind of horror novel about the evil humans do to each other. And he's also written a historical fiction series, 10 books. The 10th one, I believe, just came out, and the final one. So Robert McCammon wrote the Matthew Corbett series. Now, the first book, Speaks the Nightbird, which will be starting in January here, takes place in the year 1699. So I'm going to read the back here for you because I want to kind of give you, again, another little selling point for this series. The Carolinas, 1699. The citizens of Fount Royal believe a witch has cursed their town with inexplicable tragedies, and they demand that the beautiful widow Rachel Howarth be tried and executed for witchcraft. Presiding over the trial is traveling magistrate Isaac Woodward, aided by his astute young clerk Matthew Corbett. Believing in Rachel's innocence, Matthew will soon confront the true evil at work in Fount Royal. After hearing damning testimony, Magistrate Woodward sentences the accused witch to death by burning. Desperate to exonerate the woman he has come to love, Matthew begins his own investigation among the townspeople. Piecing together the truth, he has no choice but to vanquish a force more malevolent than witchcraft in order to save his beloved Rachel and free Fount Royal from the menace claiming innocent lives. So really, really interesting. It's kind of got a dark, moody, atmospheric horror element in addition to historical fiction. Now, horror is something that Robert McCammon is a genius at. He's done many horror novels, and he kind of, his bread and butter is that. So if he can interject that into historical fiction, which is a new genre for me personally with reading Shogun in 2024 and kind of kicking off my love for the genre, I'm excited to explore more of this. We're going to be reading, we have, again, a full schedule that's in that calendar that you can check out down below. So make sure to check that out. But we're going to be reading Speaks the Nightbird as the first book. So join in on the Fable, join in on the Discord. Let's have some great discussions together on this one. Very excited about this one. Now, the fourth and final read-along. Yes, we're doing all 4 this year. The fourth and final read-along is by a newer author, self-published author, who has achieved massive success in the world of Dragon Rider fantasy. And that is none other than Ryan Cahill. And the series is none other than The Bound and the Broken. So the way this series is structured is he has a bunch of novels that are separated by novellas. Now, the interesting thing about this is you can't skip the novellas because they're not side quest like filler material. They are stuff that's integral to the plot. So it kind of helps us out because if people want to read multiple series in these read-alongs, they don't have to feel overloaded because I specifically made the calendar so that nothing quite, feels like a super duper heavy month. We have 2 months to read Curse of the Mistwraith. We have like a month each to read Gardens of the Moon and Speaks the Nightbird. And then I decided to put the first novella, The Fall. I think it's like 70-something pages or 96 pages. I have that on my Kindle, so I'm just putting up the image here. But let's talk a little bit about what The Fall is about. So I'm just reading this off the description here. The Order has watched over the continent of Etheria for thousands of years. But there are those who believe the Order has had its day. That it is corrupt, indulgent, and deceitful. That it is ready to fall. The city of Ililnan is on fire. Dragons fill the skies. Traitors fill the streets. The Fall is a prequel novella that takes place 400 years before the events of Blood and Fire, book 1 in the Bound and Broken series. So really cool. I've heard this is a great place to start if you kind of want to dive in deep from the get-go. If you wanted a more slow unfolding, you could start with Of Blood and Fire. But I decided to try The Fall as the first entry for 2 reasons. 1, didn't want to overload you all. And 2, we have a bunch of series that are kind of unfolding over time, right? So to kind of contrast that and make it a little bit more of a richer and varied reading experience for you all and for myself, I figured The Fall was a good place to start. So we're going to be reading that in January. And again, the full calendar schedule is below. So Really excited to tackle all these. Let me know in the comments like which series you're planning on reading along as well. And join us in the Discord and everything. I think this is kind of the way the formatting will be for this read along. So basically, we're going to have the discussions going on in the FABLE app, which is more chapter by chapter, but the more back and forth kind of section by section discussions could be done, with some spoiler tags and everything like that on the Discord. And you can have other discussions if you so choose. There's tons of categories down there as well. So that's kind of the way the format of the read along will be. And at the end of each period, so for example, Malazan Gardens of the Moon, on January 31st, I will do kind of a live stream about that. I will also, maybe post like a video, a review of each one of these that has like a spoiler free and a spoiler section with timestamps, so that people who want to be spoiled, of course, people on the read along can, be spoiled, but the people who want to know if the series is for them can have a spoiler free section as well. So trying to make this fun for everyone. And I have a couple of other video ideas, especially for like Malazan Book of the Fall on the official channel read along, about kind of maybe what is the atmosphere really, how does Steven Erikson build the atmosphere from book to book, or maybe character highlights, or maybe even what could a soundtrack sound like in this world. I don't know, I'm playing around with some ideas, but I would be totally open to any ideas you might have, so please let me know in the comments. I'm just so excited, everybody. Like, this is the time for New Year's resolutions, for reading some great books together, and for a new start. New year always feels like a new start, a new chance to do something different. So I'm just so grateful you're all on the journey with me, and I'm looking forward to connecting and reconnecting more with you all as the year progresses. So with that, I'm Cahill with Shelf-Esteem. Please like and subscribe. Join us in the Discord. Join us on the FABLE app. I will see you very soon. Happy reading, Happy New Year, Happy 2025, and see you very soon. Take care.